In the high desert of northern New Mexico, the small town of Taos rests, a place renowned for its art colonies and serene landscapes. But beginning in the early 1990s, an invisible and persistent intruder began to disturb this tranquility. A small fraction of its residents, and some visitors, started to report hearing a mysterious sound. It was a low-frequency hum, a maddening drone that seemed to have no identifiable source. Those who could hear it, the hearers, described it in various ways, like a distant diesel engine idling, a faint buzzing, or a deep, throbbing vibration. The phenomenon quickly gained a name that reflected its enigmatic nature: the Taos Hum. Strangely, the majority of the population remained completely oblivious to the sound that tormented their neighbors. Only about 2% of the people in the area could perceive the hum, making it a lonely and isolating experience. For many hearers, it was more than just a sound. It was a physical sensation that seemed to penetrate through walls and floors. The hum was often more noticeable indoors, especially during the quiet hours of the night. Sufferers reported a range of debilitating symptoms, including persistent headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Sleep disturbances became common, as the relentless drone made rest an elusive luxury. The constant auditory assault led to heightened stress and a feeling of being under siege in one's own home. Frustration mounted within the community of hearers as their complaints were met with skepticism. How could something so profoundly disruptive be completely undetectable to most people? The mystery deepened, and the demand for answers grew louder than the hum itself. In response to the growing public pressure, a formal investigation was launched in 1993. A team of researchers from the University of New Mexico, Los Alamos National Laboratory, and other institutions descended on Taos. Their mission was to capture, measure, and identify the source of the elusive hum. They deployed an array of sophisticated acoustic measurement equipment throughout the area. Hearers were brought in and subjected to a battery of tests to understand their unique auditory perception. Researchers conducted environmental surveys, searching for any correlation between the hum and industrial activity. They looked for patterns related to traffic, power lines, and even geological tremors. Despite the comprehensive effort, the investigation yielded inconclusive results. Acoustic tests did pick up low-frequency vibrations, but there was no smoking gun. The detected sounds could not be definitively linked to the specific sensations reported by the hearers. The scientific community was stumped, and the mystery of the Taos Hum endured. With science unable to provide a clear answer, theories began to proliferate, falling into two main camps: earth or machine. The machine theory proposed that the hum was a byproduct of human technology. Suspicion fell on industrial equipment, perhaps from a distant, unknown facility. Could the sound be traveling through the ground or air from miles away? Some suggested high-pressure gas lines buried deep underground could be responsible. The constant flow and pressure might generate a resonant frequency that only some could perceive. However, extensive searches for such industrial sources within and around Taos came up empty. No single factory, pump, or power line could be identified as the culprit. Another machine-based theory pointed to the proliferation of communication technologies. Could the hum be some form of electromagnetic interference interacting with the environment, or even the human body? This explanation seemed plausible in an increasingly wired world, but it lacked concrete evidence. One of the more unusual proposals involved a secret, underground military communication system. This theory suggested that extremely low-frequency radio waves were being used to contact submarines. While intriguing, this idea remained firmly in the realm of speculation, lacking any official confirmation. When machine-based explanations failed to hold up, many turned their attention to the Earth itself. The Earth theory proposed that the hum was a natural geological phenomenon. Perhaps the sound was caused by the subtle shifting of tectonic plates. Even minor seismic activity, too small to be felt as an earthquake, could generate persistent, low-frequency sounds. However, Taos is not located in a particularly active seismic zone. There was no recorded increase in tremors that correlated with the reports of the hum. Another natural explanation involved microvibrations of the Earth, a constant, low-level hum generated by the planet. Could it be that the specific geology of the Taos area amplified these normally imperceptible sounds? This theory was appealing but difficult to prove or disprove. Some even looked to the sky, suggesting the hum could be related to atmospheric phenomena. For sound waves below the range of human hearing was another candidate. These powerful waves can travel vast distances and are generated by events like volcanic eruptions, meteors, or even wind patterns over mountains. The idea was that some individuals might be exceptionally sensitive to these low-frequency vibrations. This led to a third category of theories, focusing not on the source, but on the hearers themselves. Could the Taos hum be a psychoacoustic phenomenon or a form of tinnitus? Spontaneous otoacoustic emissions, or SOEs, are faint sounds generated by the inner ear itself. Normally, these are too quiet to be heard, but perhaps in some people, they become perceptible. This would explain why the sound was so personal and why it couldn't be detected by external microphones. However, this theory struggled to account for the fact that multiple, unrelated people in the same geographic area reported a similar phenomenon. It also didn't explain why the hum was often location-dependent, sometimes disappearing when a hearer left the Taos area. The debate between an external source and an internal perception continues to this day. The Taos hum is not unique. Similar mysterious sounds have been reported in other parts of the world. From Bristol, England to Kokomo, Indiana, small pockets of hearers report the same maddening experience. This suggests the phenomenon might be global, with local conditions making it perceptible in certain spots. Decades after it was first reported, the Taos hum remains an unsolved mystery. It is a ghost in the machine of our modern world, or a whisper from the ancient earth. For the hearers, the question of its origin is less important than the daily reality of its presence. The sound persists, a low, steady drone on the very edge of perception. It is a constant reminder that there are still things in this world that we do not fully understand. The hearers of Taos continue to listen, hoping for a day of silence. The initial reports in the early 90s were just a trickle. A local doctor might hear of a patient with persistent, unexplained headaches. Another might mention a strange buzzing sound that no one else in their family could hear. These isolated incidents slowly began to form a pattern. A local journalist, intrigued by the scattered anecdotes, decided to write a small article. The article asked a simple question: "Are you hearing it too?" The response was a floodgate opening. Dozens of people came forward, relieved that they were not alone. They were teachers, artists, retirees, a cross-section of the Taos community. This collective validation transformed the issue from a personal ailment to a public concern. The 1993 investigation was a moment of great hope for the hearers. Finally, they thought, the world would have objective proof. Scientists placed microphones in the homes of the most prominent hearers. They recorded for days, capturing the full spectrum of ambient sound. The data was analyzed, cross-referenced, and scrutinized for anomalies. But the hum remained a ghost in the data, a signal that refused to be pinned down. The official report concluded that no known acoustic or vibratory source could be identified. For the hearers, this was a devastating blow. They had been heard by scientists, but the sound itself had not. This failure led some to double down on the machine-based theories. Amateur sleuths began their own investigations. They drove for miles, listening for changes in the hum. They documented every factory, every substation, every potential source. Yet no correlation could be found that satisfied everyone. The hum seemed to defy the logic of proximity and power. Meanwhile, the Earth source theorists looked deeper. They drew parallels to ancient legends of the area. Some Native American traditions spoke of the Earth singing in this very region. Was the hum not a new problem, but an ancient phenomenon newly noticed? Perhaps modern life, with its quiet, insulated homes, had made the Earth's subtle voice audible. This idea offered a sense of cosmic connection rather than industrial annoyance. It offered no relief from the physical symptoms. The psychological theories also gained traction over time. Researchers explored the idea of mass psychogenic illness, where symptoms spread through a social group. However, the hearers were not a close-knit social group before the hum. They were strangers brought together by a common, bizarre experience. The tinnitus explanation was compelling, but it had its own flaws. Tinnitus is typically a high-pitched ringing, not a low-frequency drone. And its prevalence in one small town would be a statistical anomaly. The mystery became a cultural touchstone for the town. It was featured in documentaries, books, and paranormal investigation shows. Each new piece of media brought a fresh wave of curious tourists and amateur investigators. Some claimed to hear it immediately, others left disappointed. The hum became part of the mythology of Taos, another layer to its rich history. As technology advanced, so did the tools to investigate the hum. Citizen science projects emerged, using smartphone apps to collect acoustic data. Thousands of data points were collected from around the globe. This new data confirmed that low-frequency hums were indeed a global phenomenon. The Windsor hum in Canada was linked to operations at a steel plant across the river. When the plant shut down, the Windsor hum disappeared, offering a rare, concrete solution. This victory in Windsor gave hope to the hearers in Taos. It proved that the source could be man-made and, more importantly, that it could be stopped. Yet the Taos hum had no such obvious candidate for its source. The town lacked the heavy industry of a place like Windsor. The mystery in the high desert remained stubbornly intact. Some hearers have learned to live with the hum, tuning it out like background noise. Others have moved away, seeking silence and relief in other towns. The hum has shaped lives, altered decisions, and redefined the meaning of home. It is a testament to the power of the unseen and the unheard. Whether from the earth or a machine, the hum is a question mark embedded in the landscape. And for a select few, it is the unending soundtrack to their lives.